the racing, the big one, the camping. It's all just bigger at Talladega. And with a doubleheader on Saturday and a cup race on Sunday, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
But one thing for sure, it's always thrilling.
And as they go across the stripe, a photo finish!
NASCAR's biggest and baddest track is back. Yeah, boy. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our studios. As we go through today's show, we'll be using the smartboard thanks to our friends at RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Again, they've given us a smartboard to first of all go through everything coming up on the show. We'll begin this show by having a conversation with Richard Hendrix, an SEC Network basketball analyst, about the end of the season for Alabama men's and women's basketball. Then we'll hear from some football players as spring practice is underway in its second week on the Thomas Drew practice fields. Then we'll take a look back to Monday night. We had a really fun edition of Hey Coach. We had a conversation on basketball with Brian Passink, but our other two conversations of note with people in person: Kensey McMahon from the swimming team, Jay Seawell from the men's golf team. Kensey, a two-time NCAA champion, so a really good conversation with her. And of course, with Coach, we are also really thrilled about the win at the Linger Longer Invitational in golf. Other headlines for today, and again, RJ Young is the sponsor of our headlines for today's show. You look at the Alabama baseball team. Last weekend, dropped the first two against Kentucky, but won the finale in thrilling fashion on Sunday. Then on Tuesday, went up to Madison, Alabama, a suburb of Huntsville, and picked up a win 10-4 over Middle Tennessee at the home of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Sellout crowd. It was a really fun atmosphere up there for Crimson Tide baseball. Now this weekend, Brad Bohannon's team is hitting the road. The Crimson Tide will be going to Fayetteville to Baum-Walker Stadium and taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. First pitch tomorrow is set for 6:30 p.m. Central, and then Saturday and Sunday both at 2 o'clock, as the Crimson Tide will be home for the next 2 weeks, but this week completely on the road for Alabama baseball. Same can be said for Alabama softball. Last weekend on the road as well. They were at Tennessee and went 1-2, won the Saturday game of that series against the Lady Vols. Right now, Alabama ranked 14th in the latest D1 softball poll, and this weekend, Crimson Tide will try to get back to winning ways against Missouri, as Alabama's off to a 2-4 start, just like the baseball team in SEC play. Games this weekend: Friday at 6, Saturday at 5, and then Sunday at 1 o'clock. And you can listen to Tom Canterbury, Gray Robertson call all the action for us on the network. Now taking a look at some other headlines from around athletics. In gymnastics, we are excited for Ashley Johnson's team to be competing at the NCAA Norman Regional, so hopefully some really good results there to move on to the NCAA championships in a few weeks. Brandon Miller closing out time with the Alabama Crimson Tide this season, and he picked up another accolade. He was named the NABC Freshman of the Year, so that's good to see in men's basketball. Good to see in women's basketball as well. Essence Cody participating in this week's McDonald's All-American game. Can't wait to have her on campus as part of the Crimson Tide this fall. Then I mentioned the football team continuing spring practice as well. So really busy time here at the capstone. And unfortunately, we're not getting to talk about men's basketball going to the Final Four, as the season came to a close last week in the Sweet 16. And we will start our conversation with Richard Hendrix, an SEC Network basketball analyst, not only to get his thoughts on men's basketball, but the close of women's basketball season as well. Here's our final edition this season on Crimson Drive of Hoops with Hendrix. We hoped we'd be getting you this week talking about Alabama in the Final Four coming up in Houston, but it was a memorable season for the Crimson Tide, both in men's and women's basketball. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, and it was just that. A lot to be proud of for both of these programs. A spectacular season. Not the postseason finish that everyone wanted to see, but you have to be proud of what both the teams, the men and women, have accomplished this year.
Let's start with the men's team. So many great wins for the Crimson Tide this season, winning the SEC regular season and the tournament championship. But ultimately, the year comes to a close in the Sweet 16. Looking back to last Friday night, what was the biggest difference for the Aztecs to win in the second half against Alabama?
Well, as you mentioned, coming up with a double winning it in the SEC tournament and the regular season, you know, they just unfortunately, after rolling and looking so good in the SEC tournament and in the first rounds, they came up against an opponent that just necessarily matched up perfectly against them. San Diego State was playing really good basketball. They have a really good shot blocker who's able to protect the rim in the interior, and their exterior defense of running Alabama off the three-point line and contesting shots seemed to be a really big factor in Alabama not being able to capitalize. Had a close chance to win it there in the end, but came up short.
Was San Diego State the type of team you were worried about the most with Alabama and when looking at its potential postseason run?
For me, yes. When you look at teams that they struggled with this entire season, Tennessee, Mississippi State, when they played in Tuscaloosa, you talk about teams that are able to slow the game down, grind it out. Gonzaga being another one with some interior presence. When you're able to do that and limit possessions and play really good defense and match up with Alabama athletically, you can give them problems. Now, credit to this Alabama team. They were a tremendous team, depth in every position, played very hard, one of the better defensive teams in all of college basketball. But when you have a team that can match up with you athletically, it can give you challenges. And then in March, when teams are hitting shots in the clutch, it ends up being your Achilles heel, and they just ran into a tough matchup.
What's the best way to combat that in the future? Is it just more depth, specifically at the post position, or how does Alabama try to avoid against a similar fate in future years?
Well, you have to give the staff great credit for what they've been able to do. 31 wins is not easy to do. To win the regular season in the SEC and in the tournament is a phenomenal achievement. So when you say what do they need to do, I think they need to stay on the same path, but you can add a few things. I think when you get to March in tournament play, manufacturing baskets in the half court becomes very important when teams are much better in tournament play, playing with a lot of confidence. They've scouted you well, and they understand that it's win or go home, and they're running you off the three-point line, getting back in transition, not allowing any easy layups or any threes. And also, if they have the personnel that can match up physically and protect the rim, it gives you a problem. So when you can add a component to your game with a player that can get a tough basket over a contest, particularly in the mid-range or in a post-up, it gives you another dynamic option that can spell runs when you have scoring droughts by giving your team a higher percentage shot in a grind-out ball game.
We know it wasn't the close of the season that Brandon Miller wanted to have, and he was limited by the groin injury in the last few games. But how do you feel like his season will be remembered by Crimson Tide fans?
Stellar, phenomenal, maybe one of the best individual, if not the best individual season that anyone has ever had at the University of Alabama. To come in as a freshman and you average a little under 20 points per game and over 8 rebounds per game, with the versatility, with his outside shooting threat, with his ability to track down players on the defensive end and block shots with highlight plays. I mean, he was box office player. And to see him up close and personal in Coleman Coliseum, I think everyone understood the treat that they have. The sour taste that they have in their mouth, obviously, is the performance that he had in the last couple of games in the NCAA tournament, which happens to everyone. Unfortunately for him, not able to connect with his shooting in the tournament, and the team did not achieve their goals, which seemed like from the outside they had a clear shot to the Final Four with many upsets taking place in the tournament. But, you have to credit every team in the field. This was a season where you had a lot of different number one ranked teams in the country. No one could put a pinpoint on who they thought was the best team. Alabama was one of them, and they were playing great basketball at the end of the season. But the field is wide open. It was wide open in the field of 68. It's wide open when you get to the Sweet 16. And it's wide open now into the Final Four. So you had to respect the opponents that they came up against. And they were a beatable team. And unfortunately, they met their match. But Brandon Miller, kudos to him. He had a tremendous season, and it was a joy to watch.
How about the year that Noah Clowney put together, and what could be next for Noah Clowney? What are the next steps for him?
Well, I think he's a tremendous player, coming in as a freshman with not huge expectations, but really showing a lot of his versatility in game and consistency. To average, around 10 points and over 8 rebounds a game is phenomenal as a true freshman coming in to do that, and also to hit outside shots and to rebound and block shots at the clip that he was able to do. The interesting thing is, I think he, from a professional perspective and a prospect, might not have come in as a player with all of this fanfare that was on everyone's radar, but he's on their radar now. And I think you have a tough decision to make as a prospect if you're going to make the chance or make the decision if you wanted to go pro and try your hand at the NBA or whatever offers are to you, or decide to come back and develop many aspects of your game which are needed. I think that's the challenge when you're talking about college basketball right now. What do you do with the player movement? Do you have the option to go professionally? Do you have an option like some people do and opt to go transfer portal because they may feel that there are greener pastures on another side? But for Noah Clowney, he definitely has some decisions to make. As a player, he has several things that he can improve and get better, strength being one of them, more play versatility and consistency with more polished moves. But where do you decide to do your development? Should it be in Tuscaloosa, or do you decide to take your talents to the NBA? We'll see.
That really will be fascinating. And looking at Nate Oates, we know he'll be back. He just signed a huge contract extension and got a raise. He'll be back for his fifth season coming up next year. But this is the first time that he's been in Tuscaloosa that he will have to be without two assistant coaches that have been there from the start. Charlie Henry becomes the head coach at Georgia Southern. Brian Hodgson takes over at Arkansas State. What do you think he's going to be looking for in rounding out his coaching staff along with Antoine Petway?
Well, I definitely think this is a tremendous decision that he'll have to make to replace these two high-quality coaches who obviously have been able to do such a good job that they have taken on head coaching responsibilities. So he'll have a challenge to see who he can bring in to match his culture. But if you look at what he's done in his track record in a short period of time to create contenders at Buffalo and at Alabama, I have confidence that he will figure it out. He's been able to do a great job in the recruiting trail. If he can continue to get high-quality players to play at Alabama with the style of play that he has and what he demands from the defensive end, I think he can still put together a team who can be a power in the SEC and hopefully make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. You know, the question is just going to be who's going to be on the roster. In this time and age, like you say, when the transfer portal rosters change from year to year. But Nate Oates has done a tremendous job of proving that with the new roster every year, he can still implement his system and get the most out of his roster and his players to have a good performance and showing for the team and individually to promote themselves as professionals.
We talked about how this year was really unpredictable in college basketball. Some of the traditional powers, all the number one seeds, were out before the Elite Eight. And you look at a Final Four that includes Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, Miami from the ACC, as well as UConn from the Big East. But crazy to see that we got these Final Four teams, considering that everyone was talking about how name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal would only help Power 5 schools. We get some mid-majors now with a chance to win a national championship. Do you think we're going to see more of this, or could it correct itself in the future years towards back to the Power 5 schools and specifically back to some SEC schools?
Well, I would love to see it correct itself to some SEC schools, but you know, I'm not so sure if name, image, and likeness and transfer portal is the reason for these four particular teams to make it this far in the NCAA tournament. I think if you want to put together a supporting argument for more parity in college basketball, to see these four names with Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, UConn and Miami in the Final Four, I think that says, hey, name, image, and likeness is working. This is the parity that we want to see. But you would have to ask, are the players on those rosters benefiting from name, image, and likeness? I'm not sure. Who knows? Maybe with some teams they are, maybe with some they're not. But I think what plays a bigger role in this is they have mature players. And each one of these teams that are in the Final Four have veteran rosters. And you find yourself, when you're recruiting talent from the high school ranks, if you're going to recruit the best high school prospects, then they're not going to be on your campus too long. You can look at other teams in the SEC as Kentucky, who's always recruiting the best players that are playing in the McDonald's All-American game, as we've seen recently, in All-Americans, but you're only on campus for 1 year. You have to understand this NBA prospective hopefuls in my opinion, has very little correlation to college success and college winning. So you have to look at what do you want to build your team with? And these mid-major teams have veteran players, and they've been able to make runs into the Final Four. But I'm not so sure that it's name, image, and likeness is the reason why we have some mid-majors in the Final Four. I think the name, image, and likeness is still going to be beneficiaries in the Power 5 levels, but we'll see what happens in the future.
All right, putting you on the spot. Who do you think wins the national championship next Monday?
Oh, I'm going to have to go with UConn. This is a team, in my opinion, it's a blue blood organization. You're talking in the last 25 years, they have the most national championships. So when you talk about the experience, the pedigree, the fans traveling to see, also the strength in the interior play in which they have, and the way that just quite frankly pummeled their way through the NCAA tournament thus far, they seem to have the most momentum. So I'm going to go with the favorite of UConn, the teams that historically done it, and we'll see what happens. But I'm sure the other teams in the field would definitely be putting up a fight to try to finish off the Cinderella run.
Absolutely. And that's perfect transition to women's basketball for the Crimson Tide, because their season came to a close on the home court of UConn, ultimately falling to Baylor in the first round of the NCAA tournament, as Alabama finished the year with 5 losses to close out the season, 3 in the regular season, 1 in the SEC tournament, and then 1 in the NCAA tournament. It was a successful season in so many ways for this Crimson Tide women's basketball team. But what do you make of the finish, especially in those last 5 games?
Well, the finish is unfortunate for Alabama because head coach Christy Curry has done a tremendous job getting her team back to the NCAA tournament and have her team playing expiring ball, which is very, very entertaining. But obviously, just the unfortunate circumstance of losing 5 games in a row at the end of the season, and in the fashion in which they lost them, having control of the game, losing them in the final moments. It's very, very could be frustrating and disappointing for the players, but nonetheless, a successful season for Alabama. But have to go back to the drawing board to figure out what do you need to do when it comes to tournament play, and who can you put in position to help Alabama make the deep runs that all the fans would love to see when it comes in March.
And for the Crimson Tide next year, we know Aaliyah Nye is coming back, one of the best three-point shooters in the SEC. And then Sarah Ashley Barker back as well, getting ready for her senior season. You got to be excited about the defensive intensity she can continue to bring to the floor for Alabama.
I am. To look at the squad, those are 2 really good players to bring back as cornerstones in the organization. Hard players. Aaliyah Nye, one of the best shooters in the country with a smooth stroke. They will have to take on the leadership role, because there's a leadership role from this past season with the seniors led by Hannah Barber, Brittany Davis, Megan Abrams, and Jada Rice. Did an outstanding job throughout their entire career at the University of Alabama. And they were a big reason why you see Alabama getting back to the March Madness and playing meaningful basketball in March. So you have a lot of big shoes to fill with the leadership role, but I believe that the returning players, as well as the added recruits, can definitely keep Alabama basketball in the NCAA tournament and hopefully moving on and making the deep run.
Richard Hendrix just completed his 2nd year as a basketball analyst. Last year, you were mostly with us on campus in Tuscaloosa, both on SEC Network Plus and then on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. He did that as well this year, teaming up with Chris for a game, me on a few SEC Network Plus games, and we had the potential for some radio as well. But folks realize now, too, that you had the experience to go away from Alabama a little bit, calling some other teams on the SEC Network. Just how did you enjoy getting those assignments on television, getting to see how some other teams operate?
Oh, it was a tremendous blessing, to get the opportunity coming out of playing professional basketball and now stepping over into the broadcast industry, to get the opportunity to get called up to call games on the SEC network level on the men's side. It's definitely a tremendous opportunity for me, which I enjoyed thoroughly. But the biggest reason that I was prepared to be able to make that jump to make it on the SEC network was having guys like yourself at the University of Alabama to help me along the way. Yourself, Roger Hoover, Eli Gold, Chris Stewart, Brian Passing, to help me out as I got started in this second career. So I can hope to continue to grow in the business, and I hope to continue to come back down to Coleman Coliseum and continue calling more games from the court with you guys.
We look forward to it. What's next for Richard Hendrix as we get into the spring and summer?
Oh, summer baseball. It's time to be dad and being out here coaching some little league baseball and see what happens. I got to try to see if I can get these kids running around the bases, score some runs. So if you don't catch me on air talking basketball, you'll catch me on a court or a baseball field somewhere trying to coach up some youth.
Swing for the fences, Ryan Hendrix. Well, Richard, we really enjoyed having you join us today here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network and all throughout the year. We look forward to having you back as well over the spring and summer and fall at some point when we have some Alabama basketball news to talk about. But just thank you so much for your great work. Roll Tide.
Thank you for having me. Roll Tide.
The racing, the big one, the camping. It's all just bigger at Talladega.
One thing for sure, it's always thrilling.
NASCAR's biggest and baddest track is back. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Really fun conversation with Richard. Can't wait to have him back coming up on Crimson Drive all throughout the offseason, as basketball headlines will be plenty coming up for both the men's and women's basketball teams. Right now, the football team making headlines with spring practice. So good to see the Crimson Tide full underway in their second week at the Thomas Drew practice fields. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been able to hear from a few members of the Crimson Tide meeting with the media, like Kool-Aid McKinstry and J.C. Latham. Here are some of their comments as spring practice is underway for Alabama football.
It's crazy because the first 2 years here, I was around guys who have been here for a while and knew exactly what was going on and how to do things, but now I'm that guy to help lead on the younger guys. I like Coach. He's here. He's doing what he needs to do, I feel like. I feel like the defense will be a good defense, and we're working to become the best defense, so that's what we're doing. Well, I always feel like being able to play more positions and do more in the secondary can help you out, add more value to you. So I feel like that's a good thing, Coach moving us around and just seeing where we fit in best to make the team the best it can be.
I love him a lot. He's really getting the team together, really getting us all bought into like the organization, executing. A lot of praise for him. I'm really excited for the offensive coordinator this year. I see a lot of maturity in them. They know what they got to do to perform. They know what they got to do to play. And I see them taking it, like I said, in strides and just trying to perform and do their best. So I see a lot of growth in them every day. Definitely. I remember coming in my freshman year not really knowing what to expect. I came from IMG, so I had some kind of feel for it. But ultimately, no one's ever been to college. Coming straight out of high school is new for everybody. So I'm just trying to take them along and just make sure they know what they got to do on and off the field, and just making sure like they're enjoying their time and they're having fun, because trust and having fun and all that stuff is what it's about. So.
Well, from one group of student athletes on the Alabama campus to another, as we visit with somebody that competed extremely well for the Crimson Tide for the past 5 seasons in Kensey McMahon, an All-American swimmer and NCAA champion twice this year in Knoxville. Just tremendous results for her, coming back for her 5th year and competing for Margot Gear's swimming and diving program. She joined us on Monday's edition of Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance at Baumhauer's Victory Grill, and we had a really great conversation about her success in Knoxville and what Alabama has meant to her in her swimming career. Joined by a 2-time NCAA champion this season from the Alabama swimming and diving team, Kensey McMahon. Roll Tide, Kensey.
Roll Tide. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, congratulations. A couple of wins at the NCAA championships just over a week ago in Knoxville. How are you feeling going into this NCAA championship meet?
I was super excited heading into my last one. This entire 5th year has been really good for our team, and so I was excited to finish it out on a strong note.
So you win the NCAA championship in first of 500 freestyle. What led to success in that event?
I've been working on a lot of different things with my coach this year. We've been working on my walls, a little bit of speed, power, all the things that translate into a little bit of a shorter race for me. And I also have some really awesome training partners that have helped me throughout the entire season.
What was the mindset as you got in the pool ready to go for that meet?
I just wanted to race. I love racing. It doesn't matter who I'm competing against. It's just a fun part of the sport for me. And I was feeling confident with what my coach and I were doing all year, so I was ready to go.
Really exciting to see you earn the victory in the 500 freestyle and then the 1650 freestyle as well. Definitely a longer distance. How do you train differently for an event like that?
I honestly don't really train that differently. We'll mix up the days of the week depending on if we're doing speed, power, mile, pace, but it's pretty similar with freestyle. The only difference is in when I mix up strokes.
What were the celebrations like winning those 2 titles?
The 500 free definitely didn't feel real. I could hear the team getting super excited, but it wasn't until I looked at the scoreboard like 3 different times that it really set in. But it was very fun.
Well, that's definitely cool. And then the podium stand as well. Those moments have to mean a lot to you.
They really do. I think it shows that even though hard work takes a lot of time, it definitely pays off. And I was super grateful to have my parents there and my teammates and my coaches.
And especially competing for the final time as a member of the Crimson Tide on that elevated stage of the NCAA championships. Was that just a full circle moment when you think about your entire Alabama career, it ending with championships like that?
Absolutely. I mean, they call it Title Town for a reason, and I would definitely say I'm built by Bama. I've tried to take full advantage of all the amazing resources we have here between academics, all the resources we have within the swim program, and as well as the community to just try to be an Alabama athlete.
Well, the first individual swimming title since 1984, the first swimming and diving national championship for the Tide since 2004. When you hear numbers like that, does it put it in perspective how special your week was?
It definitely shows how the team has been able to grow over the past few years. We talked about the rising tide when I was being recruited, what seems like forever ago, and I think that our team has really just been able to grow throughout the 5 years that I've been here, and so it was exciting to be able to end on that note.
You've gotten to see some change in this program with Margot Gear taking over as the head coach of the program. Just what do you like about Margot from the start?
I think she's super inspirational. She always knows how to talk to us, not just as athletes, but as people too. She really cares about us both in the water and out of the water. And I think when you have a head coach and then a whole coaching staff that really cares about your overall well-being, it makes the biggest difference.
And especially with the resume she brings to town, that had to be impressive to you.
Absolutely. I knew her as a swimmer, and so she translates all those skills into being an awesome head coach. I mean, you have to be disciplined, dedicated, all of the above, and she really carries that from her incredible swimming career into now her awesome coaching career.
How did she help you the most in training? How did she help elevate your style?
So I don't always swim with Margot. I usually swim with Reed. He's our distance coach. So while Margot has definitely been there on the speed side and been super supportive, Reed and I have really developed a great relationship over the 4 years that I've been able to work with him. And what we've done this year is just try to be super consistent. Consistency is definitely key in this sport, and he's helped me not only learn the importance of that, but also hold me accountable to try to do that each day.
Well, that's really special. Again, national championships for the Crimson Tide in the 500 freestyle and then the 1650 freestyle as well. Again, the 1650 freestyle just 0.10 seconds from tying your own school record that was set back in 2020. You remember that as well?
Yes, that was a really, really special moment. It was kind of like the first big swimming moment I feel like I'd had in college, and the entire team was just super supportive. We had been having a really good week, and it was a fun way to end that meet.
Certainly was. So again, great success for you. How about for your teammates all throughout that week in Knoxville? What made that such a special week?
We were a really close-knit group. We are a close-knit group. We just had a lot of fun outside of the water, which I think helped translate into fast swimming. A fast swimmer is having fun. And we were singing karaoke, we were joking around, we were being each other's biggest supporters, and I think that made the biggest difference last week. You
got to be proud of Ryan White and the steps she continues to take, a great level competitor for the Crimson Tide.
Absolutely. Ryan's a great friend and a great competitor, and even though we don't swim the same events, I think it's cool that we've been able to see each other grow over the past several years, and we're always learning new things from each other, whether it's a different dynamic warm-up outside of the pool or different things within the water. She's really great.
We mentioned you won a couple of national championships at the NCAA championships, but then after that, really no time to rest. Tell everyone what you were up to last week.
So right after NCAA's, I flew straight to Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center for national team camp.
How exciting was that? How much fun did you have getting to interact with? I know a lot of people you've looked up to for a long time, maybe knew from before, but now you're on the same playing field.
It was a great week. It's really hard training up at altitude, especially coming off of a meet as big as NCAA's, but it just being in that environment, everyone's super encouraging and just all trying to push to be better for Team USA, so I think that definitely made a big difference.
So that's certainly a good step forward for you in your career, and what is going to be next for you after you leave Tuscaloosa?
So I'm transitioning into my pro phase of my career, but the thing with swimming is there's no handbook for going pro, and so I have my summer competitions lined up and my training figured out from there, but beyond that, definitely trying to navigate that. I'm not a super big name in the swimming world, and so trying to figure out how sponsorships work. I currently don't have anything of that nature, and so really just trying to learn and absorb as much information, and I have a great support system, and hopefully some more people will be able to join that and believe in me as well.
Yeah, who are some friends or some mentors that have been helping you out as you start making these steps?
Ryan's been super helpful. She's kind of already navigated that a little bit. But really just learning, everyone with Team USA, with Margot, she's been through it. Everyone just is happy to help and give information, and just trying to absorb it all.
Well, I mentioned in the last segment, you were a fifth-year senior on this team. Did you feel the pressure to step up as a leader? How did you try and show some leadership for this Alabama team this year?
As a fifth year, I think it's super important to know that the seniors have a very important role, and so trying to find that balance between being a vocal leader but also giving those seniors their shot at having leadership. And so really this year, instead of a super vocal role, which I feel like I had more in like my junior and senior year, trying to be more of a mentor to a lot of the younger girls and share my experiences and just be there for them in any way possible.
Well, a lot of good moments for you in your Alabama career. We mentioned the 2 NCAA titles that we've been talking about a lot from just a couple weeks ago in Knoxville, but even going back to the SEC championships, understand you had some success there as well, winning gold in the 1650 freestyle. What was that like?
It was super exciting. So I won in 2020, and that was a really cool moment. Our team had been through a lot that year, and I really think it just showed the perseverance that my coaches, my teammates, we all had. And so then it was a long couple of years trying to earn that title back. So definitely a very sweet last SECs.
For our fans who might not be as familiar, just how strong is SEC swimming? How much does the competition you go through throughout the regular season help you for the postseason?
The SEC is the most competitive conference. There's so many teams, there's so much depth, and so everyone just really steps up when it comes time to that championship season. Everyone wants to swim for their team. It's such a loud and exciting environment, and you want to be a part of that in any way possible. So I think our dual meets really helped us this year in that each dual meet really ramped up in competition, and it really built the momentum for the whole season heading into the last two meets.
And you got to love that college atmosphere too that you're able to have at those meets. I understand there's a lot of Roll Tide chants, maybe the fight song every now and then. Do you guys do a lot of that stuff?
Absolutely. We're super loud. We're cheering for each other. We actually had quite a few fans this year, which was really exciting now that we have our new pool. But yeah, we're really loud. We're, especially being a co-ed team, we bounce off of the guys' energy, they bounce off of our energy, and we always do the fight song at the end of every dual meet.
Don't miss out on NASCAR's much-anticipated return to Talladega Superspeedway on April 23rd. Between the iconic Talladega camping and the unparalleled access of the Talladega Garage experience, there is something for everyone to enjoy. Bring your whole family and make memories that will last a lifetime. Lock in your tickets today at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. Well, a great conversation with Kensey McMahon. Then on Monday night, right after we had our conversation with Kensey, we were joined by Jay Seawell, and he had the entire men's golf team there along with his family at Baumhauer's Victory Grill. Just a really fun time, and especially it's fun when we get to visit after victories. And last week, the Crimson Tide won at the Linger Longer Invitational. Here's a great conversation with Jay Seawell talking about some wins for the Alabama golf team. Joined by head men's golf coach for the University of Alabama, Jay Seawell. Roll Tide, Coach.
Roll Tide, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. Your family's here. Some members of your golf team as well. It's an exciting time for you guys.
It is, especially after last week. I think the guys did a really good job. So I'm glad you didn't have me on 2 weeks ago. So it's nice to be on this week.
Well, we could have gotten you ready for that maybe. But
That's right.
The Linger Longer Invitational, first of all, tell us about the course. Tell us about the approach you guys had going into that tournament.
Yeah, it's a tournament we play, I guess 14 straight years now. Except for the COVID year. But it's a tournament, it's a golf course that I'm very familiar with. They actually used to play an old match play PGA Tour event there back in the old in the 90s. I think Davis Love may have won back when they did pods at local places. So it's a Jack Nicklaus golf course. It's a great golf course, and so we know a little bit more about it. We had just come off a poor week at Cabo, and that's athletics, and I think our guys did a really good job of responding the week of practice, and then it was nice to go to a course that we knew, and so we could get to work, and so it's got a great feel. We've won it 6 times now, and so we'll probably have to go back again. So look forward to it.
I think you will, and you didn't just win the tournament. You're 14 under par as well, so that's everybody contributing to get such a low score, right?
It really was. Yeah, it was a team effort. I was really proud of. We played with Vanderbilt, who's the number one, consensus number 1 ranked team in the country, Georgia Tech and Georgia in the last round. So, with about 9 holes to play, it was really anybody's tournament. We may have been up a shot or right tied here or there. And how our guys responded to that situation, I call it winning time, and they responded like winners. In front of such good players. Like I said, Vanderbilt had kind of created a little bit of an aura. They've won the last 4 tournaments, a couple of them by a lot. And so they had kind of created this aura that they were this massive team to beat or whatever. And the way we responded the back 9, especially, with a chance to win, that's where you as a coach step back, players play. And to see them with a chance to win how they played makes me very proud of them.
And that's going to help for later on in the year when you're going to see Vanderbilt again at SEC championships, possibly NCAAs as well.
Absolutely. We've always had a philosophy. We're going to play against the best, and we're going to go all over to do that. We're not just going to stay in our backyard, and we've done that. And so, we've seen Vanderbilt the last 4 weeks in tournaments, and so I think that familiarity helped us a little bit. We know they're good. We respect them. I've known Scott. Scott was here at one time with me, and so we respected what their team is doing. But we kept seeing it. I think the more you see something, the more you believe either you can or you can't. And our players believe they could. They believe if we did the right things, we can play with them. And I think the only way you find that out is you play with them week in and week out. And so I think that showed itself, on the back 9.
Well, some great results again from everybody to contribute to being 14 under par. But how about freshman Nick Dunlap? He was the SEC Freshman of the Week for a second time this year after he won the medalist honors at that event.
I love that. Yeah, Nick did a great job. You know, he's a big time recruit, right? You know, from Alabama. Lives here parents live here in Tuscaloosa now, and so he's been, a great player his whole life. You know, he came to our camp when he was just a little kid, 11 or 12 years old, and so I've known Nick for a long time. He's very gifted, and he came in here. He's won the U.S. Junior and won a lot of things. Played in the U.S. Open this last year, but the transition of college, some injuries with wrist here and there. It probably slowed him up a little bit to what he was expecting to be able to do when he first got here, and he finally got healthy, and that's a credit to our training staff. Clark Halter, who also works with basketball too, and others have done a really good job of getting him healthy, and it started showing about 4 weeks ago. He was healthy for the first time, and we got a chance to see he got to practice the right way and to do the things, and so once again, I think he showed who I think he's going to be the rest of the year, one of the best players in college golf.
You mentioned his transition to collegiate golf, and everybody you recruit had great honors in junior golf, high school golf, and leading into their collegiate career. But what is that transition like? What's the toughest part of it?
Well, I think, first, golf's an individual game. And, and they all play on their high school team, but that's really more fun. That's their friends, and they're doing that. And so they do that for a segment, but they're doing the majority of what they do on their own, the summer golf, individual golf, and they're always doing that. They practice when they want to do that. They set their schedule and they go. And the first thing you do is you come in, and all of a sudden you're on a group. You're a team. There's other people. We got to do things this way, and we structure our practices. We structure how we want things to do because we want to build a team. I think it's the best part about it. So I think the biggest thing is just fitting into a new team, to new guys who are really good, and you're not the best player. The 10% keeps becoming a different 10% when you get to school, and so I think the biggest thing though is just school on your own, classes, going to school, mama's not doing your laundry anymore, and then fitting into a team aspect, which. Pretty much almost all of our players have had, it takes a little time to do that.
Certainly does. So great work by Nick Dunlap as he was the medalist again at the Linger Longer. Cannon Claycomb, who's in the building tonight, won medalist honors at the Rod Myers back in the fall. And just how good of a fall did you guys put together just help get you ready for what you're doing this spring?
Yeah, a really good one. I'm really proud of that. We had a poor year last year. We're not going to hide behind it. We've talked about it. Cannon was a returner from last year's team and, did a really good job in the regionals, but he's a competitor. But the part I like about Cannon also is he embraces the team part, and our team didn't do well last year. He took a lot of that on his own shoulders, and he goes, I want to do things. I want us to be better, with the recruiting, an older team, and then the new recruits from Jonathan and Nick coming in. We knew we were going to be good. That first tournament was huge, though. To get off to the start we did, to win Duke, to do what Cannon did, and that first tournament, and when Cannon's on fire, he just zooms. And he kind of walked away. And, he had a chance. It was Nick and Ponder on our team were actually battling with him. I think we finished 1, 2, 3 in the first tournament, which I was very proud of. And I think that first tournament set kind of buried last year and kind of said, this is who we're going to be this year.
And you guys were also keeping up with a football victory that same day, right?
Yes, on the green, playing Texas. And I don't want to get into the fan part of us, or anything like that. We couldn't get a first down, and we're behind the green, and, Cannon's making birdies, so now we're not real worried about his individual. He's up by like 5 or 6, and we pretty much had the team part done, and so I thought it was, there's a part of me going, I'm the coach. I can't watch the game because I feel like that would be terrible. I don't think that Coach Saban was on GolfStat during the Texas game just to see how we were doing. And so I said, I'm not going to, but our players were. And there's some great photos of our guys literally watching it as that we made the field goal to win the game in the end. And I think people thought we were getting excited because Cannon won. No, we were just getting excited because we beat Texas in football.
Really good day for Will Reichert and Cannon Claycomb, Bryce Young, and also Aaron Jordan, who was keeping up with it in the press box. Keep an eye on both. Your outstanding sports information director. That was a pretty good day for him.
He does a great job, of course. And I was wondering if he was sending texts down to Coach Saban, let him know how golf was doing.
Yeah, we'll ask Coach next time.
Please do.
Well, Coach, I know there's some important golf coming up. What's next for the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, we started preparation today for the Mossy Oak Invitational right over in West Point, Mississippi. Mississippi State will be hosting. Excited about that. We played there a couple weeks ago. We're going to play again tomorrow, try to get a couple extra practice rounds. I don't know much other than I know the field. We've never played in it before. The field is really good. We've got about 5 or 6 SEC teams, I think, us and Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, LSU. I may be missing one here or there, Tennessee. So it'll give us it's going to be a great field, a great an opportunity to do what we did last week, and that's what we talked about this morning. Our message was I was really proud of our guys. Like we said, Cabo, we didn't play very well, and we finished 13th, and so how we responded to that was very important. And I think our guys did a great job. But it's also very easy to kind of get your focus after a tough loss. I think it's easy to turn that way. What happens after success sometimes I think it's a little easier to let go of the rope. And, we challenged our guys this morning as we prepare for this week to be just as focused, just as hungry, just as, doing the everyday process or everyday things to win. And that's why we won. We didn't win just because we're good. We didn't just win because it was lucky the ball went in our hole or whatever. We won because of how we prepared. And so I'm excited to see how we respond to the success. I believe in our team. I think we're really good, and I think it's just a chance I think we're that good, but we have to do that over and over and over again. I think it's real easy to say that. When you start doing week in and week out and week in and week out, that's when you start setting yourself as one of the teams to beat.
Of course, you want consistency. Do you like the depth that you have this year?
I do. I think our team's really well. Like you said last week, everybody contributed. Everybody gave us a score that helped us win. So I think we have that. I think I'm really proud of our team. It gets along great. We even got along great last year. Chemistry wasn't our problem. It was probably coaching last year. But this year, our chemistry has stayed really nice and stayed really good. But we starting to have a little bit more of the competition on the golf course again. Those are the things, players healthily competing against each other to get better is really the key ingredient to being prepared at tournaments. And I'm starting to see that. We have enough depth to do that. The guys, this week we'll say to play tomorrow, and we'll kind of play a game. Crimson versus white, whatever you want to call it, and we'll play for a Coke or a milkshake or something like that. But those are the reasons why I think we're good. We actually, the back end of our lineup is able to help the front end.
Well, you said milkshake. Everyone loves the victory milkshakes. Great tradition that, again, started years ago, and you got to continue it with the Linger Longer a couple weeks ago. How fun was it to see Alabama fans tweeting you that they were getting milkshakes celebrating your win?
I love it. It's gone a little viral for a little golf coach, I guess, or whatever. And I want to give that a shout out to my dad. He taught me that when we were little. We would play if it was basketball, and he said every time we won, I was like, even when I was like 8 or 9 years old, we'd stop and get a milkshake. He said, it tastes like a winner, doesn't it? And I went, yeah. And I didn't know this, when he was doing it. He was just being a good dad. But it gives you a chance to celebrate, the 24 hours instead of just do that. And so I was proud. Been doing it since I was a kid. I've always done it since I've always been a coach for 31 years now. I've done it after every victory. And I'm proud that Alabama has adopted that a little bit. I probably need an NIL deal. Don't you think so on that?
I think so, man. I think you marketed it pretty well already.
My stomach goes on that one a little bit. I could maybe get a big and short contract somewhere. But no, I love it because I think our players, it's inside them too. And, our old players, but now our new players, hey, Coach, we get a milkshake today. And so that was the only thing after the round. I said, boys, you get to choose, and I guess I better be careful here. I'll go, you want to go here or there? And they go, let's go there. And that's where we went and got a milkshake.
There you go. So, again, fans have really taken to that with their own milkshakes, and now the Swinging Elephant gear that before only the golf team had. But now everyone has a chance to be part of the Swinging Elephant Club. I joined this fall. Love wearing the gear, the hat, the shirt. You have so many different options now.
We do. Thank you, and I appreciate your support on that. We have so many people who've done it. It's $200 to join. You get a golf shirt, a T-shirt, and a hat. We used to wear the hat, and I was always worried from an NCAA compliance issue because people would come and offer our players money for their hat. And I'm like, why are they offering for the hat? He said, you can't get this logo anywhere. And I went, my marketing mind went off like that. I said, well, maybe we should do this a little bit. And so it has been a big part of Alabama golf for about 15 years now. And so people have been so generous to be part of it. And there's nothing better. I saw even on the game up in Louisville, when they pan into the crowd, you always see a handful of them every time you see it on TV. And I'm very proud of that. I go to football games, and I always try to stop and just say thank you, because they're supporting our program. And so, yes, if you want to go on there and do it, one of our former players in GA is Sims Abney. He's running it for us, and he's doing an incredible job. And it's been you can get the gear. People always ask, where can you get the gear? Well, you can get the gear now.
Join the Swinging Elephant Club. Best of luck to the men's golf team as they continue preparing for one final regular season tournament, then the SEC championships, then the NCAA championships coming up in the next few weeks. Well, let's take a look at what's coming up this weekend for the Crimson Tide. It is time for our weekend update that's brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. I've got the relish here with me in the studio today, but Wickles Pickles, always a great sponsor of our Wickles Weekend Update. Find out more at wicklespickles.com. Let's see what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network this weekend. Well, now we're really settling into our baseball and softball rhythm on the network, as tomorrow we will be busy with two teams on the road. The softball team at Missouri starting at 6 o'clock. 30 minutes after that, it'll be baseball starting its series at Arkansas. And then 2 o'clock for the baseball team on Saturday on April Fool's Day, followed by the softball team at 5 p.m. against Mizzou. And then both teams with afternoon contests, softball at 1, baseball at 2 to close out the weekend. And then we'll be back on Monday night with another edition of Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa, as we'll turn our attention a little bit away from basketball, start thinking about some football as we're getting closer and closer to A-Day and the Golden Flake A-Day game coming up on April 22nd. But that is your Wickles Weekend Update, brought to you by Wickles Pickles. Don't miss out on NASCAR's much-anticipated return to Talladega Superspeedway on April 23rd. Between the iconic Talladega camping and the unparalleled access of the Talladega Garage experience, there is something for everyone to enjoy. Bring your whole family and make memories that will last a lifetime. Lock in your tickets today at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. And that's going to do it for this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. I want to say a huge thank you to Jay Seawell, Kensey, McMahon for joining us earlier on the week on Hey Coach at Baumhauer's, and then Richard Hendrix, a great conversation with him at the top of the show, talking about Alabama basketball. We'll be busy, of course, coming up this weekend with the games on the road, but don't worry, the Crimson Tide will be heading home coming up this next week, so plenty of home events coming up to look forward to, and another edition of Crimson Drive coming your way next Thursday at 2 p.m. right back here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Thanks as well to our video producer, Ethan Carabin, for putting all of this show together, and thanks to you for watching this show on this Thursday afternoon. For everybody at the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying so long and roll Tide.